This is Garis, masculist, MGTOW, flyers. That is 2-3 page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 506, part 2, entitled Institutionalized Feminism Will Feel Threatened by the Rise of Masculism. Carrying straight on. Another such decades-lasting gender crime that women commit against men is pill lying, where millions of women who really want to get pregnant but whose boyfriends/husbands/partners don't want to pay for another kid lie to them, get pregnant, then by law force him to pay for the kid he never wanted in the first place. Another major gender crime against men, manslaving him for decades. To counter these massive gender crimes against men, masculists push for the establishment of GEC, that's G-E-C, Gender Equality Committees, in the parliaments that consist half of female feminists and half of male masculists, so that the gender issues of both sexes are dealt with equally. The masculist half of these GECs, GECs, will push for the legislation of new masculist laws, that is the OPTAB, that's O-P-T-A-B, in brackets, obligatory paternity testing at birth, to stop women's paternity fraud, and the PARER, P-A-R-E-R, paternity rejection right, to stop women's pill lying. The fact that women have the MARA, maternity rejection right, but men don't have the PARA, paternity rejection right, is the most blatant form of sexual discrimination that exists. And it's not against women, but against men. That enrages masculists, filling them with hate for monoconscious feminists. Masculists also push for the general fipping of women, so that the divorce courts can be made men fair. For example, joint custody of kids, no alimony, no wealth and stuff halving, no house transfer, in brackets, so that all young women are socialised by parents and educated by teachers to become FIPs by getting career competent educations, or be severely punished by their male classmates who will reject them socially and sexually, causing these young fluffies to lead miserable, lonely lives, spat at for being future manslavers. Thus, from the above, it's clear that women oppress men far worse than vice versa. Masculists talk about molehill feminism, that is, the issues that feminists complain about men are relatively minor in significance compared to the decades-lasting gender criminality of women against men. Increasingly, we're now seeing a significantly growing number of bitter ideological confrontations between monoconscious feminists and biconscious masculists, in which these monoconscious feminists are harangued out of the room by very angry, hateful masculists who are fed up with the misandry of feminazi bitches and lash out at them with masculist rhetoric, telling these women that they are monoconscious, and if they want to keep their monoconscious male feminist boyfriends, then they had better become biconscious faster, in capital letters, than their monoconscious boyfriends. Since if the reverse is true, that is, if their monoconscious boyfriends become biconscious faster than they do, then these freshly minted biconscious masculist boyfriends will start seeing their monoconscious feminist girlfriends as MFBs, in brackets, monoconscious feminazi bigots, that is, closed-minded to the idea that gender oppression is a two-way street. Biconscious masculists see clearly that this is not the case, since they are very aware of how women oppress men, and in fact worse than vice versa, so have no patience with MFBs whom masculists punish. If their feminist girlfriends remain monoconscious, then typically these biconscious masculists dump them in favour of women who are biconscious, who are thus much less feminazi bitchy, since they have had their feminist anger at men for the ways that men oppress women cancelled by their masculine anger at women for the ways that women oppress men. Biconscious feminists are much nicer to men as a result, so are much more likely to keep their biconscious boyfriends. Monoconscious feminists, on the other hand, are seen by biconscious masculists as misandrist, male-dumping, feminazi bitches, and are severely punished by them, by dumping them, spitting at them, for their sexist hypocrisy, given that women oppress men far worse. But a monoconscious feminist does not see gender politics in such terms, since by definition she only knows about feminist ideas. She is monoconscious. To her, gender oppression is a one-way street. Literally, all her life she has been exposed to only half the gender political story, that is, feminism. To her, it is men who are the oppressors and women who are the oppressed, the victims of male oppression of women. This one-sided gender political view has been present for the past 6 decades, and for nearly all women it is the only gender political story they have heard. So not surprisingly, when they do hear masculist ideas for the first time, it is literally shocking for them. It causes them to suffer the symptoms of cognitive dissonance, which is the deeply uncomfortable feeling one has when one's core beliefs are seriously challenged by someone else. For example, imagine someone going up to a Christian and saying to that person that ideas like virgin births, resurrections, sons of gods, angels, miracles, etc. is just 2,000-year-old pre-scientific crap, and that this Christian is wasting her life believing deluded ideas that are not based on scientifically verified reality. This is what is now happening to millions of monoconscious feminists as time after time they are being confronted with very angry, hateful, biconscious masculists who have no tolerance for monoconscious bigotry, that is the belief that gender oppression is a one-way street. Since in today's world, feminism is so institutionalized, so widespread, this masculist revolution is going to cause an earthquake in the feminist world, as millions of monoconscious feminists are spat in the face by hateful masculists who tell these women to learn some masculism so they understand why masculists are so angry and hateful towards them. And if they remain monoconscious, they will be dumped by their biconscious boyfriends who will spit in their face for being part of a movement that condones decades-lasting manslavery. In the next few years, millions of monoconscious feminists who hold positions of power in the monoconscious feminist industry will see the very foundations of their institutions destroyed by the logic and power of masculist ideas. And that if these monoconscious feminists, don't soon convert themselves into becoming biconscious, then the masculists will bite their fucking heads off for their profoundly hypocritical sexist ignorance of how much more significantly women oppress men. So these biconscious masculists don't have any patience with feminazi bitchery, since such monoconscious complaints against men's oppression of women is small beer in comparison to the other way round. It is this strong sense of gender injustice felt by men, by biconscious masculists, that fuels their hatred and contempt for the monoconscious bigotry of feminazis, which is why biconscious masculists spit at such women. When there are millions of masculists, monoconscious feminists are going to feel they have been hit by a bus, the masculist bus, which will crush them, wiping them out, thus seriously threatening these institutionalized monoconscious feminists. The rise of masculism is not just a threat to such women, but it's more a tsunami that will drown them if they don't grab on quickly to a biconscious life raft if they want to survive. Cheers, Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Author of the book Masculism, Men's Rebellion Against Being Manslaves to Women, an e-textbook of 500 plus masculist flyers for men's studies courses, freely downloadable in Microsoft Word format from my website. Ciao.